Welcome back to a new working week, and it's time to take a look at the latest aviation news that's occurred over recent days. We unfortunately have an airline shutdown, coverage on American Airlines appealing an alliance termination, pilot strikes ongoing at an important Qantas group, and lastly, a route announcement, beginning off the bat with American Airlines, who have appealed a decision handed down by the US court to terminate its alliance with JetBlue. The termination of the Northeast Alliance, or NEA for short, between American Airlines and JetBlue arrived on the 19th of May 2023. This following the handing down from a court ruling. American Airlines becomes the only carrier, however, to appeal the decision by the court, with JetBlue announcing that they won't be appealing the court judgment. While frustrating, of course, for the smaller airline in JetBlue, many analysts have highlighted that their focus has indeed shifted elsewhere, specifically attempting to tie up complicated agreements with Spirit, which no doubt, when taking a look at how mergers go within the aviation world, and especially if we factor in the strictness of the United States market, this is no doubt something that is going to come under heavy scrutiny, and JetBlue will want to really dedicate all their available resources to trying to get this over the line. They believe a deal with Spirit is what will be able to take them ahead and put them into the category of the Big Three, which would then technically become the Big Four of the US industry. However, American Airlines believes that they do have a system in place at their airline to appeal such a decision, and they have launched one. The Northeast Alliance arrived on the scene in 2021. It's therefore relatively new, and it has definitely undoubtedly impacted since its conception. You could argue both in a negative and also in a positive manner. Generally, the alliance was created by the airlines to benefit travelers. Some people share this opinion and believe that it has had fantastic benefits, whether it be for connectivity, points, and much more. However, some equally believe the partnership negatively hurt customers. This one of the determining factors as to why it collapsed. Following a termination, analysts do predict that competition will return to the Northeast sector, offering up more possibilities for carriers and therefore likely leading to higher quality services and also a drop in airfares, with American and JetBlue no longer being able to work together in the manner that they did through the alliance, which meant that they truly were building a stronghold on the northeastern sector. What are your thoughts on this termination of the alliance and obviously the fallout from that? Let me know down below in the comments. Moving over to Cathay Pacific, well, they're continuing to rebuild their international network with the announcement they'll return to Chicago in the United States. This has been a long time in the making for the Hong Kong-based carrier that has really had it tough in recent years. As you may recall, if you're a frequent viewer of the YouTube channel or have just been keeping up with the industry over recent years, Cathay Pacific were one of the hardest hit airlines when it came to international travel. Their network dropped to essentially zero demand, carrying only tens of thousands of passengers for continued months. Before the emergence of the pandemic, Cathay Pacific actually routinely served Chicago with their 777-300ER. This operated a daily service at that point. Initially, the Chicago flight will operate just 3 times weekly, and the airline will switch its 777-300ERs to the Airbus A350-1000. Cathay says flights will depart from Hong Kong on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 12:30 before arriving into Chicago at 2:30. This is all local time. After a handful of hours on the ground, the A350 will jet back off, bound for Hong Kong, and arrive in at 8:45 p.m. While a fantastic network resumption, what it really does is highlight the damage done to the Cathay network over recent years and the continued rebuild. It is working towards improving its capacity levels, hoping to see 70% of its pre-pandemic network resumed or at least growth be present by the end of this calendar year, that being 2023, and that will likely then build as 2024 arrives. The Chicago flight from Hong Kong is slated to commence on October 3rd for those after the specifics, so depending on when you are watching this video, it may very well be airborne. Equa Air, based in Ecuador, has announced the complete suspension of flying. I do apologize if I've mispronounced that. I could not really find an accurate translation of this name, so I'm just doing my best here. Equa Air launched only 2 years years ago. It does note that while it has upheld commitments to safety, sustainability, service, and quality, while also pursuing profitability, after market analysis, it was forced to suspend activities. A suspension of operation is also in line with open processes within the labour, fiscal, and operational framework, per a statement released by the airline. Ultimately as well, for this carrier, the challenging operating climate impacting airlines right around the globe significantly hurt them. That is seen vividly through the increased costs of fuel and to generally fly. And while for some airlines they can mitigate these costs through other areas of the business, for maybe your more niche and smaller customers, they can really struggle. Over 200 employees are now being impacted by the company's suspension. However, they say they'll get their full support. Meanwhile, passengers who had been booked on services with the airline, and now these obviously won't be taking place, will be transferred to LATAM Ecuador thanks to an agreement reached between the pair. The carrier had 3 737-700s in service when its operations were suspended. These averaged an age of 13 years. Before its collapse, the airline offered services across Latin America, and really since its conception, it had seen a pretty gradual growth in the Ecuador domestic market, accounting for a decent amount of the market share. Therefore, they definitely had ambitious plans, but simply weren't able to continue with them given the operating situation. Pilots working for a key part of the Qantas group, that being Network Aviation, are set for strike action. The strike is slated to commence in the early hours of October 4th local time in Australia, following an ongoing dispute over pay conditions. Network Aviation is critical in operating charter and scheduled services to regional ports in Western Australia from Perth. Additionally, Network Aviation is certainly integral in offering mining flights to transport those around the state, and they have strategically picked Wednesday as the day to launch the strike, given how busy it will be. The Australian Federation of Air Pilots has described the 24-hour stoppage as something that is necessary. They say that there was an overwhelming vote of more than 99% of their employee base in favour of such industrial action. Qantas says it is negotiating with the AFAP and its pilots. However, it is struggling to reach an agreement, despite Qantas saying that they believe their offers are more than suitable and are unsure why it is not being accepted. Under the Qantas Link operations, Network Aviation has a fleet of over 30 aircraft. This does consist of Airbus A320s alongside Fokker 100s that are definitely centred around the western part of Australia. That is going to conclude today's aviation news recap. As always, if you have absolutely any thoughts, you're more than welcome to let me know down below in the comments. Really do appreciate your support. Stay tuned, there won't be any days off this week, so we'll roll on tomorrow at the exact same time, taking a look at the latest aviation news.
And we'll fly.